also just tell us about some of the greatness that was here before I-95 came through and separated that community.
Yeah, well, in the late 40s and the early 50s, Overtown was really a hub of jazz and entertainment. It was a place where black entertainers particularly, who could not stay on Miami Beach, but who would entertain on Miami Beach,
Right.
would stay. And so this was where they would come and let their hair down and go to the juke joints and relax and really do what people do, what black people do when they're just not on. It was sort of like a natural, and it was an organic kind of vibe that was a part of Overtown and so forth. And then in about 1964, the highways came through and sectioned Overtown into quadrants. And really, just about that time, the Civil Rights Act came in, and blacks were able to integrate in terms of housing and so forth. And so a lot of people moved up to Liberty City, and they moved south to Richmond Heights and that kind of thing. And frankly, if I can say this, it left the poorest of the poor in our community right in Overtown, fragmented and disinvested as a community and so forth. And so from that time, we had the McDuffie riots, in the 70s, early 80s, and Overtown has really struggled to come back. In fact, we used to call Overtown the hole in the donut, because if you looked at how the beach developed, if you looked at how the hospital district developed, and sort of like what they now call Midtown and the East Side, Overtown remained stagnant right in the middle of all of that, and so it's had its problems. The housing stock in Overtown, for the most part today, is probably well beyond the depreciated time frame, typically 30 years, and so it's struggled with dilapidated housing, and so we have looked at Overtown, and this is not our first time around. The Urban happens to be a project that hopefully will contribute to the revitalization of Overtown, but we have thought long and hard about what was going on in Overtown, and we had a housing plan for Overtown that consisted of new development, infill development, and rehab development, and so forth. Okay. And we did that in terms of how all of those things would come together and to revitalize Overtown. And one of the things that I want to say very quickly is that until you balance the economy in Overtown, you can't create much demand that can be supported in terms of small businesses. So for instance, if you go out, we have a whole strip on 3rd Avenue that has turned over several times. We had cleaners there, we had an ice cream shop and all of that stuff. And really those businesses only flourished at the first of the month when people were getting their government checks and so forth. And so the lesson to be learned is that you've got to have people moving into the neighborhood, or and the only way they're going to do that is if they have a diversity of housing choices.
Right.
So, but once that is established, you have people moving into the neighborhood who can support and create demand for the small business persons that want to operate in Overtown.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point. A lot of people like to talk about that, the pre-integration. And the reason why you had Black Wall Streets and you had thriving Black communities was because it was its own ecosystem.
Right.
Everything was self-sustaining. You had people who worked and who were able to fund and fuel the small businesses, the cleaners and the restaurants and the hotels. And that's what you saw in Overtown, right? It was close to downtown, but it had its own ecosystem, which is why it was a whole until 95 broke it up and then caused it to be what it is today. So when you're looking at doing things with the urban and urban philanthropies, there's always going to be somewhat of a ripple effect from the progress. What do you see will be, or what do you want the impact of what you're doing in Overtown? What do you want that end result or that end sort of thing to be?
Well, we have two things, at least two things.
Yeah.
First of all, we want to be able to monetize the culture of Overtown. And that manifests itself through food, entertainment, and so forth. And that is a product that is an authentic urban product that people want. They want. They are demanding authentic places, authentic music, authentic food, and so forth. And frankly, the trend over the past 10 or 15 years is to get a lot of younger people to move closer to the urban core, and a lot of them who are fortunate enough to have professional jobs and so forth, this is where they're nesting. And so even though they go out, on a daily basis and have, professional jobs and so forth, what they really want to do after hours is they want some place to come and let their hair down, and they can afford, to spend a few dollars on drinks and so forth. So we want to monetize the culture and history, and make that something that people will start to demand. And at the same time, what we want to do is we want to see a lot of young people come back in the community and so forth, and make Overtown a place, a hip place, a thriving place, because in so doing, you get you get all types of people coming into the neighborhood, spending money and that kind of thing. And as a result of that, you create this huge demand for goods and services, and the dollar really actually continues to rotate inside of the community.
Right. Right, and we're back.
Like Trevor Noah's between his between commercial breaks.
Yeah, hilarious.
Those are the best segments. Actually, some of those segments are better than his show.
I was going to say. 2, yeah.
Phil ain't drinking.
But y'all can.
Y'all can drink.
Absolutely. I want that dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I need a dark too.
Yeah, dark.
Yeah.
Don't tell.
It's fine.
It's been streaming the whole
It's
time.
been streaming the whole time. We sitting up here watching.
Whole time.
Well, this is the real me. If anybody's watching and wanted to know what it is, I don't know what
The real you is you being late and coming in and saying it's done.
Right. With the head shining and all.
It's done.
Need a
All
little
right.
concealer.
So going back to the urban Keon, to catch you up, we're talking about your company, by the way.
Right. Surprise, in case you ain't know.
I like how the media did that, but it's okay.
Just in case we don't want you to think we're talking about something else. Phil has held it down, so Phil is going to give us a historic element. We'll get back to you real soon, young man. But Phil, what we want to know is, how do you? It's like a two-part question. What things will you guys do to make sure that the community feels they are part of this progress, as we're talking about the ripple effects of progress? And then also the historic preservation. How is that going to be so important in redevelopment of the community, and how will that historic preservation be, I guess, exude? How will that come through the urban project itself? Both of you guys can answer.
Well, first of all, we're going to infuse all of our drinks, all of the setting with historical either names or fixtures.
So kind of like culture infused?
Yeah.
Popcorn culture infused.
Well,
popcorn.
no, what we're going to have sort of like the longshoreman iced tea.
Right.
Right.
And we're going to be able to point to the Black Archives vault. So everything that we're doing out there, we want to memorialize and preserve the history of what has happened before. We want to remind people of where they are when they come out there, and we want to promote that. But at the same time, we want to bring in, this kind of fresh vibe. And really, the people are the ones who are carrying the vibe. So if young people come out, if older people come out, and they're sitting in a place, a lot of times the environment has a lot to do with how people feel about themselves.
Absolutely.
And feel about the environment and so forth. And whether you have an older set, like at night with maybe some jazz, or you have a younger set during the day or early evening and so forth, it's all about the vibe. It's all about the networking. It's all about who's there. And when everything from the menu to the the drinks, and we plan to have a lot of art out there. All of it is designed to be Afrocentric, and more than Afrocentric, specific to the Afrocentricity of Overtown itself.
There you go.
That's a big word, right?
There you go.
No, that was good.
That was good.
You got anything you want to add, Keon?
Well, I was just gonna say to add to that, Phil, let's not forget about that core rock that we're pulling out of the ground. So when you talk about infusing the history of this area, we're pulling a rock that, think about it, Harlem Square used to be on that land where we're currently at. Mm-hmm. So, and many of the other nightclubs that hosted the entertainment that took place here in Overtown, we're going to the foundation of that, the bedrock, that core rock that's there. I mean, how important is that to be able to expose that? I don't think anybody's looking at it from that angle, but I think it's important that we, that we're pulling it out of the ground and saying, hey, look what's already here. Mm-hmm. Look what's unique to Miami, particularly look what's here in Overtown. So,
yeah, I think that is also an aspect of the venue itself, is that we're going to try to be try to maintain as natural a surroundings as we possibly can. We're going to repurpose stuff that was there, and just kind of redirect it, make it artistic and so forth. But every stone, every rock, as Keon said, is going to be really memorabilia for the neighborhood itself, or from the neighborhood and so forth. And hopefully, as things happen, particularly, for instance, around Art Basel, we're planning a big Art Basel. Yeah. And we're going to do something we think is going to be very special. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be your typical, art display and so forth, but we're really going to try to involve and immerse people in a whole experience that will be very close to what Keon was talking about in terms of, this hardscaping that we're doing out at the place.
So circling back to what we were talking about, because Phil and Keon, you both have been talking about the food and the vibe and the entertainment that will be there. Why focus on craft, culinary, and culture when you talk about the brand of the urban?
Well, because, that's the product that we're trying to put out. Mm-hmm. And when you say why focus on it, is because that's what people consume.
In fact, the product is already there.
Yeah, and again, what we're trying to do is to monetize the things that our communities are noted for, which is the food and just
that's what I'm saying.
Right, keep it real.
Let's get it all the way real.
Yeah, lay it out.
Just for being black.
Yeah,
this is who we are.
And you know what? You know what? We said a long time ago that, and please don't take this in any way to objectify the people, but in a lot of ways, the people in Overtown and people in our communities are in and of themselves art forms. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good way to put it. We are the art itself.
Yeah, we are the living
Natural
art.
creators.
We are the living art. I mean, if you look at
time machines,
exactly, if you look at some urban paintings and so forth, where you see an urban scene, you might see a kid riding a bicycle. Right. You might see two ladies standing on the street corner fighting. You might see somebody coming out.
But it's the authentic elements
that
make it what
But
it is.
all of that is who, as Keon was saying, is who we are. And people want to be there.
Right.
As long as people, listen, as long as people can feel safe,
right,
they want to be relevant.
Right.
And
safe or protected, because we know they was riding around in Ninth Ward in New Orleans. It wasn't safe, but it was still a spectacle of observation.
Right,
they wanted to be there.
Well, look, what was that club up on 14th Street? There was a big club up there, right across the railroad tracks.
Oh, you talking about with Carew and Y?
Yeah, Carew and Y.
Yeah.
Right. Carew and Y.
It's right on
we
the
would
edge
see.
We talked about Carew and Y,
Exactly.
how the crackheads were watching over the cars.
Exactly.
Right.
And people would pull up to Carew and
they
Y.
felt safe.
Yeah.
That's right. Carew and Y with Bentleys and so forth.
Absolutely.
And they would
before Wynwood even existed.
Right,
exactly.
this was way before.
And you know what they would do? They would text their friends, "I'm in Overtown."
Right.
Right. Now they were in Carew and Y, and they had, this was upscale.
Right.
But they could when they got out of the car, they could look over the railroad tracks and feel like they were part of the urban, landscape, and they were proud to be there. They were telling people.
You're telling the truth, and a lot of people won't remember this unless they looked at Fat Joe's Lean Back.
Absolutely.
That's where he did his video.
It's right there.
So they, that's what people want, and they will buy that all day.
Well, not even that. Bad Boys was shot in Overtown, right at the firehouse,
Very true.
firehouse where the Omni CRA is currently.
Yep.
I mean, I was on set as a kid, trying to scope out Will Smith. So, hey, I was a fan.
Right.
That's true. I forgot about that.
It was shot right there in Overtown.
Yeah, they did a lot there.
Yeah, but two things that you guys, well, not two things. One thing that you guys keep saying that may put people off is the monetization of culture. So explain that a little bit, unpack that, because so that way people don't think that you're like just trying to capitalize on blackness.
No. Let me
Which you should be capitalizing on blackness when you're black, because everybody
Right.
else is capitalizing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Let's talk about it.
Right, but and you're right. And so to that point, it's odd when we say we want to capitalize off our culture. It sometimes can be rough. People can take the wrong spin on that. Right? But if we go over to the beach, and I'm not going to name the restaurant, but if I order watermelon with cayenne pepper on it, right? If I order some chicken and waffles, whatever southern deep fried you want to call it.
That boy might not name the restaurant, but he
that's
just
pretty
called
much
out
it.
the menu item.
You know who it
just
is.
think about this for a second.
We know who it is.
But think about this for a second.
Right, go.
Chicken?
Go ahead, Keon.
Fried chicken. That ain't even seasoned. Wait.
Might not be clean after we saw
Watermelon. Phil, watermelon with cayenne pepper on it. What does that sound like?
Sound like something I don't want to eat.
But
It's actually kinda
But
good.
in other words, but look, in other words, the things that were used to criticize us, we fried chicken, watermelon eating, right? And now everybody's making money off this stuff.
And it was called the N apples back in the day. I
Right,
won't
you
even
know,
say
and
it.
now today we find out all the nutritional value watermelon has, what it does for your skin,
Watermelon
and
water.
everything
Everybody
else.
got watermelon
You know,
water.
so
Watermelon and cucumber water.
So when we talk about monetizing the culture, what we're simply saying is we're being unapologetically about who we are. I think that's important. That when we talk about the things that have made us who we are. Right, I mean, we talk about lemonade being, giving us lemons, we make a lemonade out of it. Well, everything about us, we have turned into something positive that continues to show our resiliency. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about having our menu and monetizing our culture. We're talking about everything that's made us who we are. Come experience it.
I really like that you said that, because it's authentic. The things that we were criticized for.
Right.
Everybody getting tired of Mediterranean and Italian food. So when you start hunting and when you see these people, the foodies, everything foodies are normally hunting for, we've been doing.
We've been doing it. I
think Keon, we might have briefly talked about this. My biggest complaint was about 2 years ago.
Okay.
When red velvet was a thing.
Right, and it's like
my grandma been making it. Like, that's been in our. It ain't nothing but a chocolate cake with
red.
That's all it is. But we've made that a delicacy that everybody now craves
that
for.
frosting is off the chain. But it was like everybody had red velvet cupcakes.
And in fact, we were using cream cheese frosting before anybody else thought about using cream cheese frosting.
Not everybody got cream cheese frosting.
Right.
Well, listen, can I be academic for just a second?
Absolutely.
That's what we have you for, to keep us balanced.
Sorry about that.
Well,
No, it's not.
we're talking about monetizing assets of a community, okay?
Right.
And so the first thing that I learned in urban and regional economics was that communities have to export stuff in order to grow, in order to
That's
create
why I
jobs.
wanted to talk about it.
Hey, you see that in New Orleans right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody understands that in New Orleans.
So, everybody that, walks around in our community talking about they want a job, if you can't sell something, you're not going to be able to create anything. You create any jobs and so forth. I mean, if you just depend upon
a job being handed to you.
If you just depend on the economy that we have,
Right.
of trading among ourselves and so forth, then what you're going to find is the same thing that happened on some of those shops on 3rd Avenue.
So it's kind of like you're saying focus on creating something of value that other people are going to be attracted to.
The value is already there.
Look, when people demand things, people produce things. And when people produce things, they can hire people to produce those things. Okay? And so when people are able to be hired, then they go out and they spend money and so forth, and they create other pockets
Other
of demand
economies.
within the community.
Yep.
So now the guy that's working at the bar, he gets a salary or she gets a salary, and then they can go and buy groceries from another black merchant down the street and so
Right.
forth, and they then can, hire somebody because demand is created
So
there.
you're talking about the power of recycling of black
Exactly,
dollars.
the power of multiplication of the dollar within the community, based on the first premise that somebody's selling something to somebody outside of the community in order
Yeah.
to create sufficient
And
demand.
can I add something to that? And before I-95 came in, that's what existed all along Third Avenue.
We talked
We
about
had our
that.
own
Yeah.
businesses.
We missed that when you missed that when
Yeah,
you was closing
yeah.
the deal.
You know,
yeah,
but-
but that's true.
But it's important to mention that.
Yeah.
And to break that down even a little further, the reason why those communities were so successful, when you were talking, Latoya, about being self-contained, is because you had various economic levels of black people
Yes.
within the
Within the same
community.
neighborhood.
Absolutely.
You had doctors, you had lawyers, you had teachers,
Yep.
you had workers, maintenance people, and so forth. But they all lived in the same place, and together, they created the kind of demand
Right.
that keeps communities healthy.
Yep.
Exactly.
And if you look around, think about what South Beach does.
Right.
Okay, South Beach sells stuff to the
Everything.
world.
Yep.
They
Right.
sell their
They sell a culture to tourism.
they
monetize
sell their
that
culture
culture.
to South America. They sell their culture
Experience,
to
a vision, everything.
absolutely.
We ain't doing nothing different.
And South Beach would not be South Beach if it didn't have those people flying here in droves or coming down from New York or wherever they
Right.
come from, to experience the South Beach down there. They are who they are because they have a product that they are selling to people outside of the area.
So do you gentlemen feel that with what you're saying is the urban one of the, I wouldn't say the first opportunities, but I would say one of the larger and initial opportunities in South Florida for us to make money off of us? Because I think
Absolutely.
everybody has made money off of our culture but
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just going real quick back to the South Beach. One of the things South Beach is very famous for is the old style cars. If you go down, what is
Ocean.
that? Ocean, and you see those old style cars. Well,
Which they jacked that whole thing from Cuba. Go ahead.
right. But those cars existed in our communities. Those are like,
And you guys had some there at the
Exactly.
groundbreaking.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
we
noticed
did.
that.
Of course we did. Why? Because that's who we are.
Right. It was always
know,
about fixing up the cars, keeping classic cars.
Absolutely.
And
the classics.
Staying with that.
I want to make another point about the urban. The urban is part of the folk life village.
Yep.
And, I made a statement yesterday that the urban is not just about the urban, but the urban is about the folk life village.
Yes.
It's about Overtown. And what we're trying to do is to create a synergy,
We're going to
Entertainment district.
an entertainment
We're gonna
district
activate
right
all of
there. So that everybody's ship will rise. We're going to have restaurants across the street. There's something that's going to be very similar to a Red Rooster across the street. You got the Black Archives
Right.
there.
Theater.
You got the Lyric Theater. You've got
So just think about it. When the Black Archives does an event now at the Lyric, guess what a spill out is going to be at?
exactly.
Those dollars stay in the community now.
Exactly.
They don't go anywhere else because we
so
don't have
gentlemen,
it.
with that being said, was it hard to sell the vision? When you was putting this together, when you started about 18 months ago, I think is when you kind of started formalizing everything. Was it hard to sell the vision?
No, I wouldn't say it was hard to sell the vision. It's sometimes hard to create the financing. But I think everybody could see that
There was a need.
there was a need, there was demand for entertainment. I tell a story about, I was here in 2002, 2003, and our offices were in the Dorsey House, right in the Folk Life Village.
You tell the story all
And
the
I
time.
tell this story all the time, but it's worth telling. Well, because we got
No,
people here.
absolutely. I'm just saying.
But anyway.
No, tell the story. We haven't heard the story. Tell the story.
So during Black History Week, and I think this was 2003, 2004,
Month.
we had buses that were a part of a
Tour buses.
Tour buses that would come to
What year was this again?
about 2003, 2004.
Okay.
Okay, they were tour buses. They were coming into Overtown, as part of the historic Miami tour.
10 at a time.
And let me tell you something. There was absolutely, they would park from the corner of 2nd Avenue to 3rd Avenue, right along 9th Street there. And the only thing that they could reach out and touch was the Dorsey House. And literally, I still have pictures. We had a block of buses. We had 300 people come through the Dorsey House at a time. We had to stop what we were doing. And they were looking for Purvis Young. They were looking.
Right.
They were looking for some of his
man.
artwork.
Yeah.
They were looking to a trinket, something to say we were here. Okay, we were actually in Overtown
Souvenirs.
because listen, some of these people came with their cameras, looked like they came from Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
You understand? They wanted to come and see the natives.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And take some back.
And take a piece of
wanted to
Overtown
do it.
back
Right.
with them, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And there was absolutely nothing there for them to buy, very little for them to see.
Yeah.
And so when we started thinking about the urban, we said, look, the urban, really what the urban is it's probably, we're probably going to have 8 or 9 businesses out there when you include the food trucks and so forth.
Right.
And then we have this open space so that we can also do activities. We're going to make it lush enough that people will want to actually hold important events to them out there. And we're going to have like a little pond and so forth. And to be able to do all of this stuff,
We got a pond? I ain't know.
yeah, we're gonna actually do a pond out there,
little
little pond, and to be able to do
the
all of
heart of
this.
Overtown.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring a little zen to the
Yes.
city.
Exactly. So what we're able
Sunrise
to do
yoga.
is we're able in the heart of the city to create. We're going to be able to create an oasis
So we're going to call
in
it
the
soul yoga.
right.
Nice.
And
You know what I'm saying?
It's one you mentioning that part, but you saying that, I remember why it's so important to me. I remember speaking to some kids in Overtown, and they didn't even realize in actual mileage and distance how close they were to the beach that they watch in the videos and everything like that.
Right.
So I think this goes into the representation is everything.
Yeah.
Because you had these young teenagers that didn't realize they were only 3 to 10 miles away from everything they watch in
Right.
music videos.
Yep.
Right.
Everything.
So when you don't have that representation, and you don't present youth with that opportunity, they do not know how close to excellence they actually are.
And the other thing, and I think this is really important, that we have at least a facility, part of the facility where families can come, because
Absolutely.
we can encourage kids to come with their parents.
So it's like 7 days a week, family reunion barbecue kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's sort of like where you would go to have a family reunion.
Yep.
And you
We'll have
put
a
the
space
kids
for that, too.
Right. You put the kids to bed at night, and then the adults come back and
Hang out.
Hang out at the bar.
and if we had enough time, we'd probably build a hotel out there too. But
It's needed.
Yeah.
It's definitely needed.
But I can tell you this will be a place where you can come. It'll be a place to actually come to, and you can spend several hours there and
Right.
really not experience everything that's going to be in the venue at one time. You'll have to come back to take to
times.
Right.
get
To
this
take it all in.
to take it all
You got to
in.
keep the intrigue going.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Switching gears a little bit, because this is a show about entrepreneurship and business, share a little bit about the development process. Everyone always talks about how hard it is to build something in Miami. Share a little bit about how that's been for you and any lessons that you can pass on to someone else
The face
to be
is
able to
made.
navigate.
Which part of that we want to talk about? We want to talk about the meeting where we was pulling out.
Talk about the part that's not going to get you in trouble.
Right, that part. That part. But add a little salt on it too, Keep it real.
Tell the truth.
Right.
Well, look, Overtown has had a number of disparate constituencies.
Right.
So you've had a lot of different people who had a different vision of what actually should happen in Overtown.
Tons.
And then we've had and I'm just talking historically now, because things are a lot better today. But you had people who had been made, a lot of promises had been made to, nothing ever happened. And so it had been planned and planned and planned. Developers were coming in left and right. And people were saying to themselves, look, this is the only thing we have left, our community. I mean, these are the only lots, this is the only dirt that we have and so forth. So we want to hold on to it, and we want to make sure that whatever happens here, not only do we have a piece of it, but it becomes ours. Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is that ours requires money.
Right.
Okay? But there's ways to leverage a community's interests through community benefits agreements and that kind of thing. But people have to understand the development process and how it works and why it works the way it is. Let me give you a very quick example.
Yeah.
I've been to many meetings, many community meetings where I remember years ago we had a meeting on crosswinds, which was a project that was
long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But anyway, this was a private development. It was about $200 million. The developer was coming down from Detroit and so forth. And really about 20% of the project was supposed to be affordable housing and so forth. And the rest was supposed to be market rate. And the developer was not asking the CRA or anybody for any money, okay, which was a good thing, And somebody stood up in the meeting that night and said, 20%? Why can't it be 75% affordable and so forth? Well, it's because when you are borrowing money, you have to have enough what they call net operating income to pay the money back.
Right.
Yes.
Okay? And in order to achieve that level of dollars, rents have to be at a certain level. Okay? So if 75% of the rents were below the level of the market rate level and so forth, the developer could not afford to pay back the loan of the money that they were borrowing to build a project. Now that may not sound fair,
Right.
No,
but
no.
it's reality.
I think what you said is key. Some people don't really take the time to understand sustainable models and what it takes to make a business successful.
Right.
So you can only do so much
Right.
before it becomes a loss for you.
Right.
And if you operate at a loss, all those opportunities go away. So I think that's big. It's actually not in our notes, but I want to mention it, and you guys can say something about him briefly. I think it's very important for a lot of the people to know how impactful Michael Simpkins and the Simpkins family has been in this process, because not only are they working with you guys, they also gave the building to a space called Tribe for Cold Fever, Felicia Hatcher, and Derek Pearson. And I see that Michael Simpkins has been doing a lot in the community to, reinvigorate the life that's been missing in Overtown, and he's been given a lot of land. So I just want to say thank you to Michael Simpkins, because he's been making a large impact in our community.
Absolutely.
We're very, very fortunate to have somebody like Michael who is interested in the community, seeing things happen in the community.
Being present.
Exactly.
Yeah, he shows up and he's there. He's an active hand. It's not. It's a difference, as I say, it's a difference between investment versus charity.
Right.
And too many times black people are given charity and not looked at as an investment.
Absolutely.
Collaborative efforts. What are you guys seeking right now? You have a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching this show.
Awesome.
I'm sure you have a lot of people that are looking at this and they're like, hey, I want to be a part of this space. What are you guys looking for collaborative that maybe those that are watching should know about?
Yeah, well, Mike, we talked about having food trucks, locally owned food trucks in the area. We're looking for those. So if you're a vendor who owns a food truck, you have a unique product that you think fits this place, that you want to capture the new people that are going to be coming in from all over, we want you there. We want to know what it is you're serving. We want to know how great it is. We want the urban to be everything that it can be, and you're a part of that equation. I don't know, we'll talk a little bit about retail, but retail is coming as well too. Again, designed out of shipping container boxes whenever we get there.
Michael Gardner and his team reached out to us about having some of that retail there. DM.
Really?
Does it even matter? Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, and that's what we're talking about. That's an awesome brand, by the way, too.
And that's some people in the community. I think that's been very important.
There's no real retail in the area.
Right, House of Wings, Shahid, out the support that you guys have received.
Right.
It's almost like I felt more of a it's been overdue kind of response versus what are you doing kind of response.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're doing stuff in the community, it's like,
what is that?
why are you doing this? This has been one of those projects where I've seen like
it's time
it's time y'all did this, because We don't want to have to drive. We don't want to have to go. We should
Yeah.
be able to celebrate and do things right in our own
Right.
community.
And not only that too. I mean, you'd be surprised how. I mean, actually, you won't be surprised because you guys are in this millennial age group that we're talking about here. But we want to go somewhere that's not where I'm not stuck in traffic for 30 minutes
Right.
for 1 mile, right? Parking. I want to pay $20 just to go get a drink, just to park. You know.
Leave with one drink, no buzz. and
Right.
spend
$40.
You know.
Right.
Like
Out.
I mean, you know.
That's Miami, y'all.
You know, and so I think it's important there. But again, for those vendors that are looking, wait. In fact, did we talk about this? I don't know if we talked about this when we talked about the menu. I mean,
We didn't get into the depths of the menu, but
right?
you can go there.
But I just want to highlight real quick. There's going to be things that we're going to be outsourcing. So certain things in our menu, we know what we'll do. But then there's also going to be things that we're going to be locally sourcing. So
Like what? In case somebody's listening and they want.
so
I can help remind you of some
Yeah.
of the things.
help me remind me of some of those things. I mean, I can pull out my phone, but I don't know if it's
Right.
appropriate.
I got
on
it in the
camera or
notes.
something
It's
like
cool.
that.
So you got your briskets, some of your desserts.
Right. Definitely desserts.
Your condiments that like homemade ketchup, homemade mustard, things of that.
So let me
element.
put a plug in there. So if you're watching right now and listen, and you make an awesome dessert.
Look at that boy looking to the
Right.
camera.
You know,
Gotta
Train
serve
for
it to
this.
them.
awesome dessert, right? Listen, we want to know. We want to have a sampling. We want to have we want to find out how can we get that on the menu. We want to make that available so that not only is the urban benefiting from it, but also you, because that's how your business is going to grow.
And we are impatiently awaiting that
Yes.
stirrup rum.
Oh man.
Oh, you better tell
The,
it.
Oh.
the stirrup
Listen
family.
here.
Really?
Yeah.
See?
Y'all don't know that, but one of Latoya's long-term goals is to have
Right.
a small
Yeah.
batch rum company.
Really?
With fantastic flavors,
Yes.
infusions,
See,
and
this is
things.
what it's about.
We waiting
this
for
is
that.
what it's about. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think there's many
We
angles.
got to
to
bring
approach
back
that.
moonshine.
Well, you know what?
Yeah. That too.
That's some pretty rough
Moonshine,
stuff,
a nice
man.
easy one too.
Pretty rough stuff.
If you
No, but if you infuse it right,
if you infuse it, though,
It could be real
the,
good.
The fruit and stuff. Popcorn Sutton does it up, but
or even mixing it,
we need to figure
With
out how do we
different
get a
olives. We need to
license
figure
to
out.
put a small distillery.
that'll
on
be
the urban.
fabulous.
Hey, listen, we put a distillery in Overtown.
It's a wrap.
Ooh,
Yeah.
killing them. They ain't ready.
Look,
Listen.
juke joint and moonshine.
They are
Listen,
not
That's what
ready.
it's about.
I don't think we're
Yeah.
gonna close.
It'll be a whole different situation
Hey,
over there.
right.
Well, these big trucks coming, man. They came to pick up their shipment of that moonshine,
Listen,
that Overtown moonshine.
But nah, but the opportunities are there for any entrepreneur that's watching, that's listening right now. Local food truck vendors, retail, those who are in the catering space themselves, who make unique products, sauces, desserts. I think we even got plantain on there or something like that, right? Or something
Yeah.
of that effect.
Certain things that we'll have
Certain,
to, yeah.
certain things like that. I mean, it's important that we're going to be putting the bid out for certain things, and we want to support as many businesses for the culture as much as we can.
Yeah, no, that goes back to creating the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right.
Making sure that it serves itself and is self-sustaining.
So there's
Beautiful.
just one thing I have to do. Latoya is the nice face of the company, so I have to ask the mean question.
Mean
Perception versus reality.
Not me.
question. Okay.
Can you guys please do me a favor for the community? Clear up the perception versus reality of what urban philanthropy is actually doing in the community versus whatever. We don't have to discuss what
Right.
people may think you're doing.
Right.
I just want to clear up the perception of what you
Right.
guys are actually doing in the community, which led to a project like this of this magnitude, because you guys do your entrepreneurship classes that will probably have taught 25 to 50% of the people that will end up being the retailers and the people
Right.
occupying this space. So
Yeah.
can we just get a little bit more the reality of actual urban philanthropy? And I think Keon, you should do this part.
Well, I won't feel.
Phil dropped all
well-
kind of knowledge before
well-
you was here. I want to.
Well, okay, so I can speak about certain things that I know we're doing right now. From our entrepreneur program, this ecosystem is, it doesn't exist right now, but we know there's many entrepreneurs out there that want to start a business. They may not have the resources nor the capital to do it, the technical assistance, and so we're building those strategic partnerships. We're doing it to make sure that that's there, that we, and we're behind the eight ball on making these resources available. I mean, this community has been disinvested in for so long. We can't expect people to pop up with their businesses and ready to go. Time things happen. We have to build that. It's going to take some investment to do it, and that's what we're doing right now. We're building that up. From on the tech side, right now there's a lot of hardware in this room. Well, if any of this should have broken, what has to happen? A certified technician has to work on that. And what most people don't realize, you don't need no college degree to open a product.
Vocational talents, yeah.
Right. So,
Trade.
so when we talk about our cybersecurity initiative that we put in place, where we can train someone between 90 to 120 days in A+ certification, get them certified, and then now you're allowed to make anywhere between, first of all, I want to say this. You can open up your own business with your A+ certification. We go to many communities throughout Miami-Dade County, and you see those little retail scripts. You always see a computer repair store,
Very
a
true.
phone repair store. All those people have is more than likely the common denominator is A+ certification. We already have the entrepreneurial spirit in us. It's a matter of making opportunities available for us to enhance it, to benefit from it. And that's what we wanted to do with that. And then on a more humbling note, that what Urban is doing in the community, and we don't talk about this often, but I think it's okay if I mention about what we do for our residents. We bought a building years ago in very bad condition. And upon purchasing it, we realized we couldn't keep the residents in the same condition. That's something that when you have people that really invest in the community, you're invested. You're not just there to capitalize. We moved them from that building to another location, much better, major upgrade, still in the same community, not out their community, in their community. The moving expenses, the first month, the security deposits, the last month. This was years ago, and we still make accommodations for their rents today. I don't want to use that other word. It's the S word. It's a bad word. I don't want to use that. We make accommodations for their rent today. Now, what that's been able to do for us is, for one, keep people in their neighborhood that are from the neighborhood. Been able to help them out with their bills, because if I have to decide between my medicine and my living, these are real decisions that many people in our community face. So we're helping preserve as much as we can. And then it's tough to talk about because Phil could tell you this, but we've had 2 of our residents pass away, and we've gotten to know these people.
They're like family,
And that's what it is. It's a real family. But as a result of that, it gave us some leverage to be able to put out a model that we can go to the local CRN and say, hey, you're not going to build your way out of this slum and blight. It takes time. It takes creative ways to do this to increase. And Mike, I want to make sure the audience don't miss this. The humanity, the quality of life. This is something that goes unnoticed. This is something that most people don't want to touch on. When you realize in your own community you're being discriminated against to the people that you pay your rent to, being talked down to, that is dehumanizing.
Right.
So when we have the ability to leverage our influence on behalf of those people, and in fact now act as the de facto for the entire building, that just speaks volumes. And I don't think we can measure that.
We're an advocate. Mike, can I speak on your question for just a second?
Absolutely, go ahead.
And again,
I'm a little soft-hearted about it because
see, I'm a little older and I tend to be more academic. I apologize.
Okay.
No.
But Urban considers itself to be a civic entrepreneur, which means that we use our time and energy trying to create
and talents,
trying to create opportunities, sustainable opportunities for the community. Now, I remember when we were working on this back in the day, trying to figure out what we needed to do, there was a large study that was put out by that was done by the county, and it focused down on Overtown, and it asked the question, it did a survey, what is needed in Overtown to revitalize itself and so forth. And surprisingly, the answers came out, well, we need a movie theater over here, we need a beauty shop over here, we need something else over here and something else over here. There was a whole list of things. And so we recognized that as a community development organization trying to have some impact on Overtown, that lots of things needed to be done. So Urban sees itself as, like I said, the civic entrepreneur that tries to create platforms to plug those holes wherever those opportunities come up. So, for instance, the Urban is a project that we're trying to plug the hole of helping to incubate and bring forward small businesses and so forth.
Right.
We're trying to create educational opportunities for kids. We're training for kids and so forth. So we're trying to plug
jobs.
holes and jobs, and we're trying to plug holes we're trying to patch up what we think needs to be patched in order to have a very solid, thriving community and so forth. And so people sometimes look at us and say, well, what are you doing?
Right.
And
Doing what needs to be done.
basically,
You know what? I realize people only ask that question
To-
when they can't corner you,
Right.
yeah,
or when they want to actually try to do what you're doing.
right.
When they don't understand
Right.
how you make your money,
Right.
that's when they start to ask those kind of questions.
Yeah,
They
we're
just
doing what
need
needs to be
know
done,
the-
though.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the things I want to add to that, Phil, and what Keon, what you guys have said, I think you guys are already making a bigger move, and you're making that accomplishment. For one, you took a risk on a management team with nobody over 40 years old. That's a big thing. You're actually you're investing into people, and you're building those opportunities, those legacies.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, but that's major.
And I think for those that are watching, I know Amir watches. Brightline, you need to figure out a way to put together a urban annex or a division of urban directly in the Brightline, and make sure that this location is marketed and promoted just like any other big tourism spot, because
Of course.
this is the history and this is the culture of Miami. So guys, I'm trying to think, should we do the quick six or should we do the world topics? Which order?
Well, we could just mix them in.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get to the one that's been bothering me the most. Starbucks.
Right.
Oh wow.
First of all, I don't drink coffee. I drink stout. Anybody that knows, that's just the beer made with coffee.
Coffee.
I don't really drink.
You like your coffee with beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
My podcast and my
Starbucks.
shirt is called Morning Stout. Even as diverse as Starbucks is with staff, and I got some of the stats today, Latoya. I did research. I actually did research.
Oh, look at that.
I know, right? Almost 60% of their employees are females, and about 44% of their employees are minorities. So they have a very diverse staff.
Yeah.
That's at the store level.
I was about to say, this is the
That's
problem,
store level.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Store
I
level.
appreciate that you guys released those stats. I need to know your corporate
Right.
diversity.
Difference.
I need to know the diversity when it gets above $150,000 plus.
Yeah.
I need to know the diversity of those that receive stock benefits. I need to know the diversity of people
Those
that
are
can
the drill
implement
downs.
change.
Yeah.
I really do not care about who you employ. I know very racist people that have a full staff of black people. Doesn't mean they love them.
Yeah.
I want to see different numbers. Now, I do want everybody to know we were talking about specifically the incident that happened in Philadelphia.
Right.
Shout out to Brian Burkeen. We know you love your city.
Right.
The area where this incident happened, the population was actually only 3% black. So this is a very high-end, high-class, predominantly white neighborhood. And the gentleman that got the police call on them, the police call came within 2 minutes of them being there.
Right.
Oh wow, I didn't know that fast.
Yeah.
Real
Wow.
quick.
That-
They
that
probably
speaks to a
just
lot.
sat
So
down.
by the time they sat down and
Yeah.
opened up their laptop, they had already called the police. If they
Wait a
even
minute,
got
they
to
had a
the-
laptop?
Because they were there for a real estate meeting.
Yeah, they were there for a real
Yeah,
estate.
but they actually were there with a laptop.
They were,
and
just
they were
sitting down waiting.
frightened. I mean, they looked
I
frightening.
mean, most
with a
people at
laptop.
Starbucks have a laptop, tablet, or
But
something.
Starbucks
But we have to break that down. We're
advertises
talking
that.
about
That's-
100.
Well, that's what people are there for.
We're talking about 120 seconds before they had called the cops.
Man.
Yep.
You do a lot of things in 120 seconds.
Yeah, and
Wow.
get arrested seems to be one of them if you're
Hey,
Right.
black.
I know some brothers that look frightening, but they seldom come with laptops.
Right.
So
And it's a laptop.
Starbucks, what I wanted to say about Starbucks and the issues that we're running into goes into a statement that one of my great, he's not my mentor, I just look up to him, Will Smith, as you were saying, a fan, he made, racism is not new, it's just being filmed and exposed on social media platforms. For all those people that think this stuff is actually new or been exposed or more because of Mr. Orange Man in the White House, it has nothing to do with him. Donald Trump
It's
is
been
not
there.
controlling the racism. We just now have cameras and we have
Social media.
Starbucks with high-speed internet, and we upload this stuff when you do it to us.
internet.
So it's the fact that we can
Right.
get on to Boost Mobile and Cricket for $40 a month, and we're now
Metro
exposing the
PCS,
racism
if that's
that
what
you
you
used to
choose.
have hitting.
Right.
Yes, that's fine. So do not think that we think in any way, shape, or form this is new or is slowing down. I need another cold beer for this one. We know about your racism, people. We're just now putting it on camera. And as soon as those Google Pixels come out with a better camera and we start putting more content up, we're just going to continue to expose what's already there. So Starbucks shutting down 8,000 stores
For the afternoon.
for the afternoon.
wait.
On one day.
For one day.
41 days later.
Yeah, not enough. What you need
What
to do,
what would really be accomplished in that afternoon?
nothing,
Like,
because I'm assuming you're probably going to give your employees free coffee and some snacks while they're there.
But
What you need to do is shut down corporate for a week, have Ileana, Oprah, Al Sharpton,
Karen Hunter, because I love her.
yeah,
She goes
especially Karen Hunter, come to your corporate offices and have a conversation with them. Put
Yes.
Karen Hunter as your diversity board chair,
Right.
and then let's go with a process there. Don't shut down the stores and have people all mad because
in.
they
Watching
can't get
like
their
a video
caffeine.
or something. like,
but you
come
know,
on.
Mike,
That ain't gonna happen.
but shout out to those two individuals that are beginning
Remain
to
calm and did what they did.
Yeah,
and
you
one
know.
happened to be an Omega, so
Yeah, you
as
know,
a
'cause you
divine
get-
nine, we
you know.
will shout him out.
Yeah, shout out to them, but also too to the two patrons who actually stood up and said, "Listen, what?"
Yes, the young white lady
And,
and,
and I've always said this, for us to call out certain things that's, that we really can't control, is like minute. But when your culture, because I mean, when something happens in the black community, all the fingers say, "Why the black community is not doing this?"
right.
White people need to be held to that same standard. They need to be
People need to be held to that standard at this point.
Well, of course, but it's important that that those two individuals that called it out for what it is. I'm glad they did, and more of that needs to happen because I can't tell you about your house. Only you and the people inside can say what's going on in your house. The same thing as it is in my house.
Right.
Only myself and my family can say what's going on and how we're going to address it. And more of that needs to happen. Folks calling it out for what it is, because that's 120 seconds. Come on, that's just ridiculous.
Right. And a spin-off topic that has been bubbling up because of the whole Starbucks incident is what happens when you call the police on black men.
How they
And
respond.
understanding
Right.
that
Police
most
need
likely
training too.
that's going to end up with some sort of crazy incident, and they could either be dead or. So there's a whole conversation. Karen Hunter was actually having it today on her show about that. They understand the system. They know that them calling the police on you is most likely going to end up with you either in jail. There's no sort of like,
Right.
and Reverend Al Sharpton talked about it too. He was like, why did they even do the arrest? And the guy
Right.
that they were meeting with was there.
Right.
Like it could have just became a non-issue and they could have left. But no, they executed
But you know
the
what?
arrest.
One of the things that we don't talk about is you got to think about, when do police officers have interactions with black people?
When they're arresting them.
Right.
When there's
They're not really in the
they're
community.
not they're
to get
not
to know
so
them.
so if your only interaction with me as a black man comes under a criminal element,
A negative experience. yeah.
your entire experience with me and anyone that you would meet that looks like me, you automatically are drawn to that experience, that from that element. If you never in my community outside of your work requirements,
You don't know any better.
your cultural sensitivity is shot. And that's the thing. The only time that the police officers are dealing with us are when it's under some criminal complaint or something like that, so something going down.
Right, because they definitely weren't protecting us
Right.
during the protest the way they protected the Tiki brothers.
Well,
Yeah.
So we're going to get into our quick six, gentlemen.
feel like you want to comment.
I really did want
Go ahead,
go
say
ahead.
something,
Go.
Phil.
We're not cutting it off.
not gonna cut
Okay.
it
Go
off.
ahead.
No, I think probably the most damaging thing is that people need to realize that when you have an arrest record, whether you had
Right.
what
you
it
were
does to you,
clueless,
yes.
Yep.
you have to go through hell and high water
To get it removed.
to get it removed. And if you don't, because you think to yourself, hey, well, nothing happened.
They let
and,
me
you know,
go.
They let me go. I'm innocent,
Right.
and that kind of thing.
Still
Every
there.
time you get
Yep.
ready to rent an
I didn't
apartment,
think about it that way.
Yeah.
you know,
Or apply for a
you
job.
apply for a job.
Yeah.
You have an arrest record, and you got to spend.
You gotta disclose
You got to
it,
spend
depending
a
on the
whole
state.
bunch of. You go. And actually, the effect of it is it knocks you down a notch.
Yep.
Because when you're competing in this job market or any other thing, with other people
Yeah.
who may have not been arrested,
Yeah.
and that thing shows up, whether it becomes a part of the second screen on your resume or, you're going for that job and everything, before you have an opportunity to even explain it,
Exactly.
Your resume goes in the trash can. So just because they were sitting there, think about this.
Yeah.
Just because they were sitting there and trying to have a business meeting and so forth,
They
they
now
got
have a record.
arrested. Now, if I'm hoping somebody's going to deal with that, because I heard today that the police did apologize.
I'm tired
But-
of apologies.
Yeah, but
tired of apologies.
but what I was going to say is that,
Compensation.
Right,
No.
That's how you make amends.
okay. But what I was hoping was that they would undo those
Make
fingerprints, undo the
They should be
Like a
responsible
rewind.
for doing. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm tired of apologies. We need.
Yeah, apologies get nothing
In
done.
order for you to really be sorry for what you did, you make amends. Make amends is just that. You either cut a check. In other words,
Erase
there's something that it costs you
the record.
for what you did to that person.
Yeah.
It has to cost you
it
other
should be an
than
equal pain.
Well, I'm sure
160 characters on Twitter. Other than, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to be something more than that than an apology. I'm sorry.
Crisis management from
Yeah.
your PR team. So, gentlemen, the quick six is your response to a question. It's a sentence or less.
Think about tweetable
Yeah.
responses.
Looking for about 160 characters, so it's a quick response. Don't overthink it, okay?
No, you don't really
Yeah,
have to
I
count your
have-
characters.
I have to have something in my hand to think.
You'll be fine. It's
You'll
just
be
short
good.
answers. Just
You'll be
think
good.
no more than 3 to 7 words.
Okay.
If you had to pick a soundtrack of the urban, which artist is making the soundtrack, or which album would it be? So it's a soundtrack for the urban. People come, and when they think about this location, when they step onto this ground, okay,
Go ahead. No, I
it should be 2 different ones. So what's yours?
I'm going with Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Exactly.
Not
Definitely
the,
playing
not
that
the
in
Miley
September.
Cyrus September, but the real.
No. That was
Listen,
Miley. That was Taylor
Everything
Swift.
I say is
sorry.
going to just
Love.
kind of reveal my age.
Disrespect.
You know what I mean?
He said,
but
he said Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, wait.
The Last Poets.
No. Yeah.
You want to do The Last Poets? I'm gonna take The Last
excited.
Poets.
Right.
Can you answer?
No, but this thing comes to my mind. Comes to my mind. Ain't no stopping us now.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember who did that. Ain't no stopping us now.
Was that?
You got the phone. Hey.
Let me just go ahead and Google that. I was about to say cool in the game, but I don't think so.
There
Okay.
we go.
Yeah.
Hey, you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you?
I like that. Hey,
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
I was about to Google it. Must have menu item at the Urban.
A tricked out bologna sandwich.
McFadden and Whitehead, by the way.
There we go.
That's it.
hot potato chips.
Potato chip.
Nice.
All right.
You got to put a hot sausage in it? You got to
Hey,
shake it up in
maybe,
the bag?
Maybe.
If one artist agreed to do your opening concert for your grand opening at the Urban, one artist said, "I will come and do a 1-hour concert."
So that means they got to be living.
Yeah. they gotta
Or
be
dead.
there.
You know,
No,
they
I
do
don't
the
wanna-
whole hologram
we
thing,
can't do the-
Tupac.
No, we can't do no hologram.
I don't wanna do the
They ain't
dead
no
thing.
justice.
So, but one artist says, "I'll come do the concert for free. I'll do an hour performance." Who would you
Ooh,
bring?
man.
Go, Keon. You're into.
You know, I'm probably gonna say because he just won a
I'm surprised I know you.
yeah. I'm gonna go with my boy K. Dot all day.
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar.
Nice.
I mean, he's for the culture. He has his finger on the pulse right now. The things that he's talking about, Phil, you would greatly appreciate because if you take away the sound, the
Oh,
music.
I'm sorry. Quick six. We can't do
Right,
that.
right.
No, I was giving Phil the explanation.
We can't.
of-
You
That
gotta
could be
tell
off
him later.
camera.
You gotta do it
Phil,
off
Phil,
camera. You gotta do it
off
off
camera,
camera. though.
off
It's
camera.
quick six.
Okay.
Go ahead, Phil.
He was about to give a whole lesson.
Of course.
To break down K. Dot.
Got
This
you.
is why he put the dot in his name. Go ahead, Phil.
How am I gonna say all
I
that?
just have to go with stuff that I listen to in my quiet time,
What you
right?
listen
That's
to
what
this
you're
morning?
supposed to do. Go ahead.
Nancy Wilson.
Nancy Wilson.
Okay, yeah, she okay. I like Nancy.
Yeah, just give me a corner with her, and I'll
She
tell her
might
what to
be
say.
watching. She might.
Yeah.
show
I
up.
tell you
What
what,
you
and
listen to
I would
today?
tell her what to sing, huh?
What would you listen to today?
You don't get to ask the question. This is a quick six. You making this the long 8.
Right.
Go ahead. Phil.
And I lost my question. In 5 years, what headline do you want to see in the Miami Herald? It could be about the Urban or other, but Miami Herald.
Town
headline.
is back.
The Urban is being extended for another 5 years.
That's right.
Let's get right into the lease edition. Let's get right into it.
No, Overtown is back.
All
That's
right.
it.
What's the biggest element of Overtown that you want to see brought back through the Urban?
Millennials.
Okay.
Entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something for the millennials to do.
So Toya has the last question.
Last question. Ooh, I'm gonna go with this one. If you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
To talk
And
about
why?
the urban.
Just
To
real
talk
quick.
about the urban.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, no. If you had it, I'll make it specific.
Go.
To talk about the urban.
Oh, fine.
Not to think.
Talk about
All
the urban.
Just to talk.
Yes.
Dead or alive, dinner.
Talk about the urban.
No, it's not to
No,
talk
no,
about
no.
the urban.
Oh,
No, no,
just
no.
to talk.
Just to
with-
dinner.
Just to have dinner.
Oh, what?
Just
To
have
talk
dinner.
about anything?
Anything.
Yeah.
Just to be with them.
If you could just spend some time with somebody, dead,
Dead
or
or
alive,
alive.
but then over dinner, who would it be and why?
The revolution will not be televised.
Okay.
My brother.
Right.
You gonna tell them the name?
Phil's gonna say it.
No, I would say that I have two choices, but the one
What?
choice I would be too afraid to sit down with, for fear that I would evaporate. Jesus Christ. But barring that, I mean, I don't think I could do that. I don't think that he would allow me to sit at the same table. I'd probably be
What will you drink?
I would be.
I mean, you just had the red wine. You
No,
had
no,
the
no. But
Jesus
I
juice, so-
guarantee
I'm sure
you,
y'all
we would
have
have a
great
cup of wine.
conversation.
We would have a cup of
That
Break
wine.
would
some
be a-
bread.
that would be
But
a-
I just, my guilt would just overwhelm me, and I would just shrink up, and I wouldn't be able to open my mouth.
really just say break some bread. Breaking bread with Jesus.
Well, you're drinking wine. Same
Right.
All right, so Keon, can you tell us who?
That's all. I mean,
The revolution will not be televised. If
Everybody
y'all
know
know
who
the,
that is.
you know who it is.
everybody know who that is.
All right, if they don't know who it is, it's on you.
They'll
But
figure it out.
Just Google it. Look.
So, guys, thank you very much. I'm trying to. We're trying to figure out our closing out segment, and I really like Charlemagne the God, and since he does,
Did you say
since
that
he does
guy?
donkey of the day, Charlemagne, I appreciate you doing that. I really look up to you, brother, and everything you're doing. But mine is just going to be called "Now That's Just Stupid."
It should be.
So for mine, "Now That's Just Stupid," for today is going to have to go out to, I don't even remember the show, but I put it on my page for the woman that was talking about the new meat package, the social where you just cut the meat and you flip it onto the pan, because millennials have a complex of touching meat.
Did she do a focus group and got that? Like, where did she get that from?
They got a whole new packaging just for it. It's a cut and flip packaging.
But who said that people hate touching meat? Or millennials hate
They
touching
had a
meat?
whole little segment
So,
on it.
okay.
Hey,
Look,
touching meat?
don't touch meat. So they don't like cleaning their meat.
What about what?
We're going to get there.
Wait a minute. Is this meat? Wait. Is this meat?
So the reason why I'm going
That
to go
skin,
with
Phil.
Oh.
It's skin.
the
It's
"Now That's
different.
Just Stupid," Karen,
Never mind.
Karen, we have been wondering why your meat was unseasoned. But now we know, Karen, if you are cutting out your meat, as she said, I don't mind cutting it and flipping it. It's the little maxi pad that's in the. That's what she said.
The little like packet at the
You
bottom.
know the. She said the little maxi pad that's.
No,
yes,
that's what she called
That's what
it.
she called it. She
That's
said
not
the
what
little
it's called.
maxi pad that's in the packaging
Separates it.
that gets.
Look, we have a
into-
chef here. What is that packet called? Okay. It don't have a name.
separator.
You know
Yeah.
what it is. It's just a
it like
separator.
it keeps it fresh. Right.
It just sucks up the
Yeah.
blood so it doesn't go into the styrofoam.
Right.
And she said, I just hate the fact that it gets into my pan when I'm cooking.
What?
So, Karen,
How did
Karen
that
and
happen?
Becky, I just want y'all to know that's just stupid. This is what you need to do. Get you a bowl. Cut that chicken, meat, anything up. In your bowl, you want to do a proportion of either lemon juice, lime juice, or vinegar. Let it sit for at least, even if
Water,
you're in the works,
too.
with water, yes. Even if
Water.
the minimum should be 15 minutes, but I prefer you have it in there for an hour. Do not put any soap in there, Karen. This is not the kind of cleaning
Please
you're
do not
doing.
wash it.
It doesn't need the lather. You know,
Karen, after you allow that part to sit there, you then dry the meat off. And then you actually do this thing called seasoning. There's a whole aisle in Publix and Whole Foods. It's a seasoning aisle. There's
Can't miss it.
hundreds of seasoning.
Can't miss it.
Properly put seasoning onto the meat to where the meat actually has some color to it.
And YouTube
kind of
has
like
some
the
good
spray
channels.
tan that you're looking
Very
for.
true. Just pull up a video.
Apply the spices. Once the spices have been applied, allow the spices to sit there and soak into the meat. The spices have to actually go into it. So basically, Karen, you need to do this preparation a day before. Do not do this the day of, or do it in the morning before you go to work. At that point, use butter or anything else, and then you will cook the meat, Karen. If I go to somebody's house and I see you cutting up a package of meat and just putting it into the pan,
Dude.
I'm automatically leaving your house and I'm finding you and I'm calling the cops. So
I don't even cook, and that sounds wrong. Like,
just-
it just sounds
Eat out
wrong.
and flip it into the pan.
that's what she said
So
on the
you
show.
never put seasoning
They
on
don't
it?
like to touch
You never
the meat.
flip it over with your
They
hand
don't
or
like to
mush
touch
it
They
in?
don't like
So,
to touch
so
the
even
meat.
though, like, okay, so now you buy kale and it says triple wash, you still want to wash
They
it.
not washing
So,
it.
like,
They not
you're not
wa-
going to
Cut the
just put
package
meat out.
open.
They not washing. It's crazy. So I'm just letting you know. This is why certain people don't like eating at certain people's houses. And also, and thanks to my friend, and it's just gonna be and for today's ignorance is gonna be the official name of this segment. To conclude, and for today's ignorance, for my friend, I love you to death, Elise. Quit adding extra stuff to potato salad.
Oh, man.
I do not want cranberries,
What was all of
chicken, peas, or anything else in my potato salad. It is about 7 ingredients in potato
Was that the video that
salad.
was out there
Look,
about?
man.
what-
Yes.
I was like,
And
what the?
to conclude the cooking segment for in today's ignorance, you do not put blueberries in mac and cheese.
Wait, what?
Mac and cheese is don't
Wait, is that mac and cheese that wasn't cooked?
look, Karen.
White people.
Do not substitute flavoring by just adding stuff. It doesn't work out for you. I appreciate your creativity.
Whole salad bar.
Yeah.
And the stuff. Everything.
Karen, you are great with crafts. I've seen the little frames you making for the children and everything.
Stick to it.
This cooking thing is not for you. Eloisa and a lot of other people looking for jobs, and she will come cook for you. Karen, clean the meat. Quit adding extra stuff to the potato salad, and do not put no blueberries in my mac and cheese, or I'm going to throw it in your face and I'm leaving your house. But for today's ignorance,
That just sounds
that's going to be our
Mac and
conclusion.
cheese.
But if you guys could, please give a round of
Hot
applause to our guests, Keon and Phil. This is a very entertaining show, and I appreciate you guys being a participant.
And that camera work was great.
Yes, we on some new stuff today. Shout out to Dante. I know you didn't want to hear that I was right. But we're going to close it out. This is Tech Beats and Bytes. We'll see you all next week. Peace.
Oh, man.